What's up, fellow audio nerds? This is CJ here with Prodigy Creations, and today I'm going to be trying to tackle the newest CLA plugin called the CLA MixHub. And this is a pretty revolutionary plugin because as far as I know, there's never been a multi-track plugin before, and that's what this thing is. You use it on each of your tracks, and it's supposed to be an emulation of Chris Lord-Alge's actual analog console. And the idea of it is that everything's in front of your face all at once so that you don't have to, dig into your DAW to find a specific EQ you have on a channel or anything like that. It's just all in front of your face, ready to be adjusted to however you want to do it. So obviously the marketing that Waves is putting behind this is that it's going to make your mix sessions much faster, much more smoother. But is that true, or is it just marketing hype? Well, let me show you how it works, and then we'll discuss more of that later. So how you would use this is that you're given two different options. You got the CLA MixHub mono and stereo. So you would drag the appropriate one to each track. Yes, you have to drag it into each track of your session. So it's a little bit tedious. And then you get two different views. So right now I'm on the channel view for my kick drum. So right here I have my input, my EQ section, my dynamic section, and my output. Which, by the way, you totally can use this fader as opposed to the one in your DAW. So it's pretty cool. And then the selling point of this plugin, I would say, is where the bucket view comes into play. So if I click on bucket view, you'll notice basically bucket is another term for groups. So I have a drum bucket, I have a bass bucket, guitar bucket, and different vocal buckets. And this just allows me to have everything visually in one spot. Naturally, these are named after the numbers. So this is 1, it'll be 1 here, just like these ones here that I didn't end up using. They're just numbers, so you would click in here, rename it however you want. So obviously right here I have my drums, and so I would go to assign, and before I assign it, it all looks like this. And then I just simply have to click on it to assign it to a bucket. Really easy. So now I have all my drums under one bucket, or basically under one group. So in the bucket view, you can see all your channels at once. Not only that, but you can see all the different adjustments you can make. So I can switch to input view. I can switch to my EQs, to my dynamics, and to my outputs. So again, this is where the selling point of this plugin comes into play, I think, is that you have all of your channels right in front of you. Your EQs are just a click away from you. You can adjust it really fast as the song is going through. Same with your dynamics, your compression, gates, and all that. It's just like a console where everything is in front of your face and you can make quick decisions. In theory, at least. So let me play you a little sample of what I've got on this mix so far. So there you have it. Just like I said, as the music is playing, you can click through all these different sections, all your different channels, and adjust it however you would like to in the moment. Now, I kind of have some mixed feelings about this plugin because I personally love analog style plugins, and I was super excited when I heard that there was a plugin that was going to emulate a console. And that's been done before with the previous SSL plugins, but this one obviously is designed to use everything at once. You're not having to click on the different channels to go through all your SSL plugins, but rather it's all right here. But the thing is, I don't know if I necessarily agree that this plugin is going to make your mixing sessions faster. I can see where they're coming from because, like I said before, everything is available right in front of you, just like a real console would be. But here's my two arguments. One, if you had a real console, you'd be able to touch all of these things. You wouldn't have to click through all these different sections. It's all actually in front of your face. You'd be able to touch these knobs with both your hands instead of having to go through each knob with one click of the mouse. And two, the other reason why I don't believe it will give you a faster mixing session is because it's basically like learning a new DAW. Whatever you're using right now, obviously you're kind of used to the workflow, and anytime you start something new, it's going to take some time to learn, to go through the process of knowing where everything is, to get the navigation down. And if you were to get this plugin, in my opinion, it's basically like learning all over again. And so is it actually a quicker way to mix? In my opinion, I don't think so. I think whatever you're using right now, you'd be able to mix a lot quicker than if you were to get this plugin, simply because you're already familiar with what you're using. If you were to get this, you'd have to learn how to mix pretty much all over again, just because you're not familiar with this interface and the navigation. So let me list a few other things that I'm not too crazy about this plugin. So like I said before, you have to drag this plugin into each one of your channels. And fortunately for this project, there's not very many channels, but if you're working on a project with 30, 40, 50 channels, that's a long time spent just having to drag this plugin into every one of those. And another problem I had, let me switch to the channel view real quick, is even though I had the channels in my DAW labeled, I labeled them before I put this plugin on the channels. And for some reason, the track name didn't copy over. It was labeled as none or something like that. And then when I went to snare, it would be none 2, none 3. And so I had to manually enter in this track name. Now, maybe that's just an issue with the particular DAW I use. I'm not sure. But nonetheless, it just made everything seem to take longer. And whenever I did go to the assign portion to put everything in buckets, everything was not labeled. It said none. None of them were named. Another thing that can be problematic is that each bucket, you can only put up to 8 channels in one bucket. And so this could be problematic. It's probably not a huge deal, but it could be problematic in that you only get 8 buckets, and then within each bucket, you only get 8 channels. So, if you had more than 8 drum tracks, you would have to have 2 separate buckets for drums. So maybe that's not a huge deal to some people, but to me that seems a little bit inconvenient. Another thing that I didn't see available is being able to change the color of these buckets. I am very picky about what colors I want my instruments to be. As you can see on my DAW here, I have my drums as red, bass is blue, guitars as orange, and so I wanted to match that with how I usually like it, but I couldn't find a very obvious way to change the color of these buckets. Maybe there is, and I'm just overlooking it, but I did not find a simple way to change the colors of these buckets to how I wanted them to be. Another thing is that there's no solo or mute button on this plugin, and so if I wanted to solo or mute something, I'd have to go back into my DAW to do it, like this. I also commonly, in my DAW when I'm mixing, if I feel like I've reached a good balance of everything, but everything's still too loud, I will select all of them and then turn them down all at the same time to keep that balance, but just take down the overall volume. But as far as I could tell, that is not an option in this plugin. You have to adjust the faders individually. You can't control them all at once. So what is my overall opinion of this plugin? Again, I have mixed feelings about it because I love analog style plugins. I started off learning how to mix on an analog console in my church, and so maybe it's sort of nostalgia, I don't know, but I like the analog feel. So, that side of me loves this plugin. I also love that it's a plugin you can use with all of your channels at once. But in the grander scheme of things, I honestly don't see the point of a multi-track plugin. I think Waves was trying to be innovative, but really, it's just not practical. I think it would have made a lot more sense to, instead of making a multi-track plugin, using the same concept and making it into an independent DAW. Like, how cool would it be to have this same analog feel reminiscent of an SSL console as a DAW? I think that would be super cool, and it wouldn't cause any confusion on when you should use this plugin and when you should use your DAW. So that's my opinion. I think this product would have been a lot better if it was made as a DAW instead of a plugin that you use within your DAW. It kind of jumbles things up and makes things confusing. So if you want my honest opinion of if I would recommend this plugin or not, overall I would say no. In fact, I didn't even buy this plugin. This is a demo I'm using right now, and I probably am not going to buy this plugin. If you feel like you're still pretty new to mixing, I would definitely not recommend this. I would recommend that you just take the time to learn your DAW of choice, because that's all you really need. You've got everything you need within your DAW, and just take the time to learn what you have already. If you're an experienced mixer and you just want something like this to where it's an analog feel, then yeah, I guess I'd recommend it. But at the same time, I know that there are actual DAWs that attempt to replicate the analog console feel. So overall, I think this was a great idea, but it just fell a little bit short. That's all for me today, guys. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch my video, and as a gift to you, I'm going to provide a link down below in the video description that will provide you 10% off your next purchase from Waves. So if you do decide you want to buy the CLA MixHub, great, you can get it at a 10% discount. Or if not, if there's another plugin you have your eye on from Waves, it'll work towards that too. That's my gift to you for taking the time out of your day to check out my video. And with that, guys, this is CJ from Prodigy Creations, hoping you have a great day and happy creating.